Welcome, welcome. This is Marnie, and I'm here today with Britney Thompson. She's one of our featured speakers at womenspeakers.com. She's a life coach, and she's here with us to talk about what it's like to work with a life coach. And I'm super excited for this conversation because some of you have heard of life coaches. Maybe you have someone you know of or have read a book about who's had a life coach, but you have never had one yourself. And actually, you've never really thought of it as something that you might consider. So Britney and I are here to tell you that coaching is for everybody. And we're going to have a fun discussion about what it's like to work with a life coach so you guys can kind of get a better feel for if that's something you might be interested in. I want to first welcome Britney here by introducing her a little bit. Britney is a dynamic speaker, author, and Christian life coach who shares lessons learned while overcoming a 15-year eating disorder. She helps Christian women move past every type of fear, doubt, and insecurity to live out God's freedom and purpose in their lives. And you can learn more about her at her website, BritneyThompson.com, or of course over at womenspeakers.com. Welcome to you, Britney.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you here. And you guys have just, your whole household has just lived through COVID and you're alive to tell about it and you're here.
Yes, it was a very crazy experience, but
yeah,
it was interesting for sure.
Yeah. Well, you said before we came on, you're still dealing with a little exhaustion, and I know that's what we hear from our friends who've had it too. Is that the main symptoms maybe go away pretty quickly, but the tiredness lingers for a little while.
Yeah, for a long while.
A long while. Yeah. Is what it is, and you just walk through it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, the first thing we want to address is why you should consider getting a life coach now. And Britney, you came from a background where your eating disorder was pretty traumatic.
Yes. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah. And when you talk about you need a life coach now, why do you say that to other people?
Well, actually, going through my eating disorder and recovering from it was the first time I ever hired a coach. And it made me realize that I wanted to be a coach because it was just so in line with everything I needed at the time. And I didn't realize that I would enjoy coaching so much. I think that it's like the stigma, maybe like, well, I don't really need to have anything to happen right now in my life, so therefore I don't need a coach. But it was just the support system that's there every single week. It's consistent. It's simple. It's for your benefit. And anytime that you're doing anything for your benefit and for your growth, I say it's totally worth it.
When somebody says to you, I just don't think I can afford one, what do you say?
So you can't afford not to have a life coach. I always try to have somebody that I'm coaching with or mentoring with because I get the most done in my life. I have the most success in my life. I have the most peace in my life when I'm in that type of a relationship with somebody because they push you on to better, to be better, and to be greater, and to get the things done in your life you want to get done and to accomplish those big goals that maybe you've put on the back burner for years. Or it's really, really nice to have somebody there that's their job, to support you and to be that coach to coach you on.
Yeah. And I think that the one thing that a coach is really good at is helping you to surface out of all the many things that you could focus your attention on, invest your time or money in, or whatever it is. What would be the most important things, and how can we go about and do those in the best way possible? I mean, a coach can really help you take this whole big million things to do and bring it down into what's the most important thing and how can we find time for that?
Yeah, a coach really it helps you narrow in on the things that are actually important to you. And I always tell a good coach is somebody who allows you to coach yourself along the way.
Right.
That when you're working with a coach, they just put things in your mind that maybe weren't there before, or they see things differently because they're looking from the outside into your life. But I'm never going to try to convince somebody to do something my way. I want them to do it their way, but I'm just there to be that support system for them and allow them to drill deeper and be more focused. I guess that's really the whole purpose of a life coach, is that focus.
Right, exactly. And it's really, again, surfacing what you already have inside of you, what you already know works and doesn't work for you, like that. But then taking it to this level where you have an external outside set of eyes and actually someone's experience down the road farther than you and whatever it is that can help you to really identify what's the next best step and how to actually go forward successfully. Let's go ahead and talk about how to renew our minds in 4 simple steps. I love this.
Yeah, I love this because this is really what I like to focus on. I'm a biblical mindset coach, really is what I do. I coach on other different areas of people's lives as well. But I really want people to have a God-minded focus in their life. So when I'm teaching somebody, one of the things that I do implement in my coaching is a God-minded mindset. So I do that in 4 steps. There's 4 steps. The first one is to see your thoughts. You have to be able to be aware that you have thoughts that need changed. The second one is to say your thoughts, because a lot of the time we allow our thoughts to just continue being jumbled around in our head and not really having any focus, not really having anywhere to go. They just continue to tell us the same things over and over again. But when we say our thoughts, it allows us to see them logically. And then the third step is to speak truth. So if it's a thought that really is negative, is bringing you down, is something that's holding you back, it's something that you can actually combat and speak truth over that. This is not who God has called me to be. And who do I want to be? So you speak truth. And then the last one is to set your mind. Decide to believe the truth over the negative thought or over the lie that you've been feeling, no matter what, that this is truth and I'm going to believe truth rather than that other thing.
Yeah. I think about the Catholic Church has the practice of you go in and you make confession to a priest. And I think in a way that's okay. So we, as Christians, we just go directly to Jesus, but somehow there's a value to having that flesh person there to talk to about something. And coaching definitely isn't penance or, confessing necessarily to each other, but it's another person. And it kind of reminds me of like when you're having this conversation and you come to a good friend and they just let you talk. And at the end, they haven't said a word. They've just listened and you go, thank you. That helped so much. Why, there is this part about it's in your head, but you don't even know it's in your head until you say it. As you say it, truth is shined on it.
Yes.
Or someone helps with the truth that shined on it, which allows you to see what you can embrace different going forward. And it's just, it's a very natural, all of us know that we need that, but there isn't a good way in place to always get that.
Exactly. And, it's just a spotlight into your life. So it allows somebody to really dig deeper into their life and the things that they're not, because somebody doesn't hire a coach necessarily when they're feeling top of the world, They hire somebody because they want to make changes in their life, or they want to improve in some way, or they want to just be better. They want to be more intentional in their life. They want to, whatever it is for you. It doesn't have to be, I'm making this huge change in my life, so therefore I need to hire a coach. Just that day-to-day process of growth and the sanctification process, it allows somebody to be that partner with you.
Yeah. And it's a little different than a friend. A friend is so helpful and friends are great, but a friend, typically you're not going to have this kind of a push-pull kind of a relationship that you have with a coach. A coach is given permission kind of to help you in a different way from a friend. And so it provides a little bit of a different level there. Let's talk about the benefits of having accountability, because I'm one of those people that actually has lost friendships over the accountability piece with a close friend who it just got too intense to maintain the close friendship with the accountability piece there. And even in our marriages, we went to a conference years ago, and it was the transformational prayer ministry. And it was this certain process of prayer that you get very deep and you get very vulnerable. And the question was, in this one breakout session, the question was, is it possible for a husband and wife to do this together? And when we all got it, the room was crammed full, standing room only, because we all wanted to know, can we do this with each other? And the leader and his wife stood up and they said, well, when you can, you can. And when you can't, you can't.
Yeah.
Basically, there are some things that friends and spouses and even children, accountability partners are going to help you with. And there are other things you need somebody else in a different kind of a role to help you with.
Yeah. And there's a reason why we use the word coach. Because I don't know if you've done sports as a child or something, the coach's job is to help you become better, to help you move towards your goal, to improve your skills, and being a coach is just, it gives somebody else permission to speak truth into your life that needs to be spoken. And I always tell my clients, I will never lie to you. I'm going to tell you what you need to hear. And sometimes it may not be easy to hear, but you need to hear it. And so a coach really does give you that ability to say, okay, I'm allowing somebody else to be a part of my life that really doesn't have that relationship with me, but will see things for what they truly are. And I love that.
Yeah. The accountability piece, in order for it to work, you actually have to have this amazing combination of honesty and grace. So where and that's what, like you said, this person is in a different role in my life than a close personal friend or a family member. Yeah. This person is a coach, and I leave and I don't have to go back for a week or whatever it is. And I don't have to go to bed with that person. And it is a place where we can kind of dive a little deeper into the areas that are the most difficult in our lives, as well as those, not only the most difficult, but as well as those that are the most important.
Yeah. And for those people who are chronic procrastinators, a coach is a really, really good idea, because you have a set meeting with them every single week. So you have to get your stuff done in a week. And if you don't, then they're going to say something to you. It's that, I love that accountability piece, because it makes you step forward in your life, take those steps that you want to take. And you wouldn't have hired a coach if you didn't want to take steps forward or take steps to change. And so that accountability is just so nice, having that. I mean, sometimes coaches do more than once a week, or sometimes less. It depends on who you want and what you want and what the goals are. But the accountability piece is huge. As a business person, as an entrepreneur myself, I like to have coaches there, because I accomplish so much more in my life. And in my business when I have a coach there. I just love that accountability.
Yeah. And I'm a real different person, and I coach differently. So there's this accountability piece that's critical in your life somewhere. And then I coach people without the accountability piece. I coach people on what's the next best step or whatever. And a lot of them don't come back to me for any reason. They're just self-starters. They don't need an accountability partner. There's different types of people who function differently, but the majority of people actually need someone else to hold them accountable in order to be their most productive. So most coaches do it your way, Britney. And then I'm kind of here for the people who are self-starters and they don't need that same type of a coaching situation. So my clients just pick at me whenever they need a piece of me. And even the coaching clients that I have that are unlimited coaching, they don't have a specific time and date each week. And I wouldn't like it if they did. That's just not who I am. They just come whenever they are done with their project, and they come back and we go through that and then go and do another one. So everybody's different. And what's really cool about coaching is that you need to find the coach that works with your personality style. Even setting parameters, you set the parameters with your coach. And if the coach isn't comfortable with that, you have to find a different coach.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're coaching, you're hiring somebody, they're working for you.
Exactly.
You don't hire a coach to allow them to make changes in your life. You hire a coach because you want somebody to be your partner in life, and be your partner through a certain circumstance, or maybe forever. You never know.
Right, exactly. And bring the best out of you. Yeah. And even though we've been talking about, you don't go to bed with your coach, you become very close friends with your coach and with with our coaching clients. So we become very close friends. But we knew going in that this was a place where dirty laundry could get aired, where we don't look at failure as permanent. We look at failure as feedback, and we go forward from there. And so there's just a big safety net of grace should exist in any coaching engagement that you do. That would be my number one criteria. Make sure you have a gracious coach.
That's absolutely true. I mean, have a grace-filled coach, somebody who understands and won't look down on you, and won't, especially in a coaching circumstance. Sometimes you're sharing some very intimate information. And so you want a coach that has integrity and character and isn't just going to go post all over or go tell everybody what you're doing and, the things that are wrong with you. You want somebody who has character and integrity that will be that friend and that confidant that you need in your life.
Yeah. And I want to, before we go on to this biblical mindset piece, I want to just go back to your coaching through your eating disorder, or coaching that I've had done too. And it's really important that your coach recognizes that it's a process. They aren't going to just tell you, like a boss will give you an insurmountable challenge and they will beat you with a stick until you get done.
Yeah.
But a coach is a little different. A coach is going to see the potential. They're going to, like a good teacher even would, a coach will challenge you to do your best, but then they'll also recognize that you have a down day, a down week, a down month, whatever, and they're going to just stick with you through the process. So a coach is a really valuable person, but that grace piece is huge. Let's talk about the biblical mindset perspective. And this is, okay, you guys, if you're a Christian, both of us are just going to agree that we encourage you to find someone who will coach you from a biblical worldview. Really important.
It's so important. And my first coach was not a biblical Christian coach in any way. She specifically worked with eating disorders. And I had a really hard time with that because some of the things that she was teaching me were more worldly mindfulness practices and meditation. And not that I believe 100% in meditation done in the biblical way, but the Bible talks about meditation very clearly many times. But working with a biblical mindset coach will allow you to view your world through the lens of the truth of the Bible. And that's so important. As believers, we're called to live intentional lives in this world. We're called to live lives above reproach and live lives that are worthy of the calling that Christ has called us to. And so having a biblical mindset coach allows you to really find your truth, not from within yourself or from your circumstances, but from God's word and from the things that he says about you and your identity. So it's a much more firm foundation than trying to drum up the things that you want to like about yourself from within yourself or any of that. I mean, it's just your foundation is so much more solid.
Yeah. And I think we homeschooled our children, and I was friends with the superintendent of the district of the public school. And one day he said, "What would it take to get your kids in public school, Marnie?" And I said, "You can't do it." He said, "What do you mean? I can do a lot." And I said, "No, you can't do it." And he said, "Why? What is it?" And I said, "Well, the problem with the public school system is that you're not allowed to talk about Jesus Christ unless it's in a swear word in the hall. And then the kids are free to do that. And even though you keep controls on that, it's just not a place where my children are going to go to learn how to process their thinking for life. They aren't going to go into that setting to learn that. And you can't help that. It's a law. So I recognize that you can't fix that." And he said, "Well, we got a point there." So, but when we're thinking about things that are, let's say, how do I learn how to sanitize my kitchen sink or my hands or my face for that matter in COVID? I can learn that from anybody.
Yeah.
But how do I learn about the foundations, how to think it through? how to think through life, that you want to come from a biblical view. It's really important that you're working with someone who believes there is a God, that he is good, that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, that he brings us through horrific situations and he carries us through those and he teaches us things through them. And then he uses that testimony to inspire others and encourage them later. All of these things are part of having a coach with a biblical worldview.
Yes. And, I think that it became very apparent in my first coaching experience that some of the things that she was teaching me, I didn't believe. And so I had a hard time. I mean, I knew that what she was teaching me was working, but it just didn't add up in my mind, because I believe that God's in control of everything and that God's the giver of all good things. And I didn't believe that I could manifest all these things in my life. And I didn't believe all these things she was teaching me. And while she was teaching me what she believes is true, I knew for myself that it couldn't be true, because I believe what God's word says. I believe what the Bible says, that God is the one who is in control, and God is the one who gives us what we need. And God is the one who allows us to go through things and come out on the other side better, And so I had to take the things that she was teaching me. And luckily I had the tools to do this and put it through the filter of the Bible and take the things out of it that really helped. And leave the things on the table that really weren't of God. And so with a Christian coach or with a biblical mindset coach, you don't have to do that. The filter's already there. It's already in place. And yes, you should be filtering through.
Right. Always keep that filter handy.
Yes. But it's not so much, if it's being taught from the Bible, the foundation is solid.
I think the difference at it is that it isn't foundational.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you want to have a coach who fundamentally you agree with about the most important things in life.
Yes.
And after that, you can have different, opinions and different ways to think about things. But the foundation, that Jesus is the Lord, that salvation comes through him alone, that God is a good father, that he loves us. These things are really important, instead of having a coach continually telling you, you don't need to trust God so much. He's kind of angry guy. It's important to have someone who really believes what is true about the Bible and about God.
Yeah. And that's where my whole tagline, my whole saying is living a God-focused life in a me-focused world. And that's what normal life coaching is a very me-focused coaching. And
well said.
Yes, it's just very, very individually focused.
Yeah.
Like, I can create these things in my own life. I'm the God of my own life. I can create what I need. And I think that there's a danger in that. And so finding somebody who agrees with you morally and fundamentally is very important, for sure.
I love that. That was so well said, that the difference is between a God focus or a me focus. And of course, you're going to work with a coach about your stuff. That's why you're together. But God will continue to be in the center. I have this project I have my coaching clients do, and you guys can do it right with me right now. If you've got a problem or even a goal, something great, and it becomes your focal point, you cannot see anything else, because that's all that's there now. All you can see is this big goal. But when we put it into perspective, it's still right there in front of us. But our hands praying to God are on either side of it. It's not like you have to get rid of it or anything. It still stays in the center right here. And it's still a huge part of your eyes. But you can see Jesus and you can see what's going on. And that's the difference to me. Because without God as the core, all of a sudden we can get this goal too big or this problem too big and be focusing all on that. Let's talk about next how coaching actually helps us to clarify purpose and passions.
Oh man, this is my favorite topic, because my goal in life is to see as many women living out their God purpose in this world, because I believe that each one of us were created extremely uniquely by God, that he created us with a very specific purpose. And I always tell my coaching clients, you are the only you that will ever live on this planet. So you need to be you. And so I love being able to help a woman clarify her purpose and what she's really passionate about, because it's her true identity. It's who God created her to be. And it's this understanding of why. Why am I here? And why are these things important to me? And why am I made this way? And what things can I do to live this out in my life? And it takes you from wandering like listfully in life to finally having that single-minded focus. And that's my favorite part of the coaching process, is seeing a woman come in and not know really what she wants or where she's going, and then to leave going, okay, I know what my purpose is. I know what my calling is. I'm ready to go out and impact this world for Christ.
I think some of you that are listening have had a dream or a vision or a goal or an idea that you had for years, maybe even from the time you were little. And every time you think of it, you think, I wonder why I keep thinking about that. I wonder why I keep having that thought. And I just want you to know that God has put purpose and passion inside of you. And if it's not addressed, if it's not actually lived out, it'll just keep on knocking and tapping your brain all the time until you actually take care of it. And there's a difference between just ideas that flow by, like you think of a radio station that's tuned into one station, but there's thousands of other sounds going by you that you're not tuned into right now.
Yeah.
So ideas come by like that, lots of ideas that you're not supposed to be, chasing and paying attention to. But there are some of these ideas, your purpose-based ideas, that God has actually literally built into your DNA. He's actually got them built into you. And a coach can help you to identify which ideas are just flying by and they're just, glitter or whatever, but which ideas are the gold, things that you're really here to do. The reason why God put it in you is because he meant for you to actually accomplish something in that zone.
Yeah. And, a really good example of that is in my own life. From the time I was 12 years old, I knew that God had called me to be a speaker to help women get freedom. And that was what I knew I was called to do. And it became this like theme throughout my life. I didn't do it until the time when I was ready to do it. Sure. And it was there was a lot that I went through to get to the place in my life where I was actually ready to step into that and allow that to become, this is who I am. This is what God has called me to do, and I'm actually going to go do it. But I don't know that I would have got to that point as quickly without having somebody there alongside me to say, okay, if you want to do it, go do it. Like, what are you waiting for? Go do it. And that's really what I try to do as I'm working with women, is what things do you love? What things are you passionate about? What things will give you that like spark inside of you that you're just like, oh, I can't think of anything else, or something that is a theme throughout your life, something that you're good at. Those things are there for a purpose, and we can hone in on those things and allow you to become the woman that God created you to be. And I love helping a woman get to that point in her life where she's like, okay, this is why I'm here. This is what I need to do. And here's how I'm going to do it. It's so great.
Yeah. Just yesterday, I was working on a project, and I called in a coach to help me because my exact phrase was, help, this looks like a kindergartner did it. And my coach said to me, no, it doesn't. It looks good. And I just needed somebody to say, you're too harsh. You're just being hard on yourself. You're being too overcritical. Just go. And then we worked together to tweak it a little bit. But honestly, I just needed somebody to help me get past myself.
Exactly. And the perfectionist mindset that a lot of us people have, I think probably all people have it. Some of us are more aware that we have that perfectionist mindset come up, is I always had such a hard time. And I know that your viewers probably can relate to this, pushing the button on it, like doing the final thing to get it out there. So I'd spend all of this work. I'd spend months of time getting something ready, and then I would never do the final step to put it out into the world. And a coach pushes you to do that. Okay, this week you are going to publish that book that has been sitting in your bag. Like you're going to push the publish button. You're going to do this. And it gives you that like push forward to accomplish things that maybe you've been holding off on because you're too hard on yourself or you're too much of a perfectionist.
I had this amazing thing that happened before I wrote my first book, is that I wasn't really planning on writing a book. I just was getting asked the same question over and over again, which was, how do you do that? And I thought, you know what I need? I just need to figure out who wrote down what I'm doing. Then I can tell everybody who's asking me, how do you do that? Just get this book and it'll tell you how. Because it would take more than a couple of minutes to tell people how to do it, So I ended up interlibrary loaning 200 books on the topic. And in the process, I didn't find one single book that explained how I was doing it, which is what people wanted to know. And so, but the thing that happened along the way is that my fear factor was completely reduced because some of the books that I was interlibrary loaning were so poorly written, and yet they'd been published, that I thought I really could do better than this. So it was putting it into perspective for me that I didn't have to be, Martha Stewart or whatever in order to get my book out there. What I needed was just to get my idea, what I was doing, down on paper in such a way that people could read it. And that's where my first book came from. And that book went into multiple printings, and then it went into a republication. It's still available today, Kitchen Shortcuts. And what we're going to talk about next here is how to overcome fear. And obviously in the Bible, the fear not phrase is what comes up the most probably of any single phrase is fear not, fear not. Why? Because we get scared so easily. We can freak ourselves out over almost anything.
Anything or nothing, everything and nothing.
Yeah, right. Right. So when you're working with someone, how do you identify that it is fear that is standing in the way of progress?
Oh, I would say 99% of the time it's fear that's holding somebody back. But the way that I would identify that specifically is by listening, listening to them, asking them questions that just dig a little bit deeper so that I can get to know their heart and their really what's going on. One of the things that God has given me is the ability to be able to see somebody for who they truly are. And I think that that's such a necessary thing with a coach. You need to have that to be able to, because people are performance, they try to come on and they try to act like everything's okay and everything's just perfect, but you have to be able to see down deeper. And so the deeper you get, the more it allows you to see what's fear and what's just procrastination or what's doubt coming up, and doubt and fear work hand in hand. But most of the time it comes down to something that they feel insufficient with, or some type of insecurity in their life. And so overcoming fear is just as simple as taking one step forward. It doesn't have to be that big step. It's just taking a step forward. And the closer you get to it, the more you go towards it, the less scary it becomes. But it's just taking those small little steps forward until you've accomplished what you've set forth to accomplish. And fear is one of the biggest things that I think people struggle with in their lives. It holds them back from everything, from their purpose, from their calling, from intention, anything. Fear is something that I try to do something that I'm afraid of every single day.
I love that.
Get my brain used to overcoming that. Yeah.
I'm having two thoughts. One is that fear, the thing you're afraid of is kind of like a mirage out there. From a distance, you look at it and it looks real. It looks so real. But as you get closer, it just fades away. It's just gone.
And it looks
huge.
You were so
scared. I know when you're, at first. Yeah. And then the other thing,
are the huge things,
Yeah. The other thing I like to do is ask two questions. So first of all, we would ask the question, what is the most important thing you should do next? Okay. And now when you got that written down, now what is the thing you're most terrified of doing next? And when you look at those two things, typically it's going to be this one, the one you're most terrified of doing. That's the most important thing to do. Even though this one felt most important first, it felt important because you were kind of actually were thinking about doing it. But this one got submerged because you were really too afraid to even look at it or contemplate it. But this was probably the most important thing. And the one thing that in 1 John 4, it says, there is no fear in love because perfect love casts out fear. Yeah. So the one thing we can know is that when we are feeling afraid, either we misunderstand what we're supposed to do next, or we misunderstand the kind of input that God is going to have in the situation. Yeah. And one of those things that when I do coaching, what was your phrase again? You had a great phrase. It was God-centered.
Oh, living a God-focused life in a me-focused world.
In a me-focused world, right. And I call my coaching courage and clarity coaching, because why you're not moving forward in a certain area is either because A, you're unclear about where you're supposed to go, or B, you're just scared and you don't have the courage to move forward. And I feel like coaching is a lot about surfacing, addressing, and overcoming the fear that stands in the way of moving us forward.
Yeah. And as long as we stay immersed inside of ourselves, then we're always going to be afraid. So one of the things I try to get people to do is because I'm a God-minded coach, I want people to look at the truth of who God is, first of all, and who God created them to be. And when you see yourself, when you see your identity rightly before God, then those things that you're afraid of really don't matter as much. I mean, as long as you stay inside of yourself, though, it seems insurmountable. But when you put it in the hands of God, it becomes something so much more manageable, if not something that has no power at all. And that's most of the time what I find with people when they're addressing their fears and overcoming their fears is once they get through it, they're like, that wasn't a big deal at all. You know?
Yeah. And I think, I always go back to the story of Peter walking on the water. The waves were really waves, and the impossibility of him walking on water was truly impossible. But as long as his eyes were on Jesus, he was doing it. Yeah. And so I think that that's the huge thing, is the eyes on Jesus. And that's back to, again, why we just encourage you to find a Christian coach, because if your eyes are only on you and what you can accomplish, you can only just accomplish so much. You will run out of energy. You will run out of passion. You will run out of steam. You will run out. But God does not run out. Yeah. And he does not give up. And so if it's his thing, then you can know for sure that he's going to carry you through to the end if it's his thing that you're doing with your eyes on him.
Yeah, one of my favorite Bible verses, actually, and this is one thing that when I was going through some of the most difficult times in my life, was Isaiah 40:28-31. And I just love the way that it starts. It says, "Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He doesn't grow weak or weary. He doesn't faint in exhaustion. Young men will fall in exhaustion, but those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They'll mount up on wings like eagles. They'll run and not grow weary. They'll walk and not faint." And that's what it means to live that intentional, God-minded life, to say, I'm not strong enough to do this, but God is. And putting it where it needs to be, putting the focus where it needs to be.
Best phrase ever, but God. Okay, so what's the secret of making massive progress?
Small steps forward. That is the biggest secret to making massive progress, is take one step forward every day. If you do that, you will make way more progress than you possibly could ever imagine in your life. And they always say that within 1 year, people typically over plan for their lives. But I find that when you do that, just every day, I'm going to take one step forward, whether it's sending out that email to that person, or getting a web page built, or designing a logo, or, one thing every single day to move forward will get you massive results.
Mm-hmm. I think of the Indiana Jones, and he's standing on the ledge, and where he has to get his way across the way, and there's nothing there, but he knows he's supposed to go there, and he's supposed to just step out like a step of faith. But if he steps out, if he falls to his death. And so he's so scared. And so he picks up a handful of just sand and little pebbles, and he just throws it out in front of him, and they don't fall. They just stay there in the nothingness, in the middle of the air. And so with all great courage, he takes what? One step, just one step. But that's really, that verse that says, your word is a light to my path and a lamp to my feet. I often think about camping and how you just have this lantern or this little flashlight, and you actually cannot see very far in advance at all. It's pitch black. You're in the woods, and you're just like trusting that if you just keep this flashlight going, you'll see where to step next and where not to step next. Yeah. And that's what God promises. This past year has been just so amazing to me, because at the beginning of COVID, I wasn't sure what to do, because what I would usually do got all turned upside down. Yeah. For a lot of people, most of us. Yeah. And so I thought, I don't know how to decide what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to decide what to do. And so I just would get up every day and I would just say, God, what do you want me to do today? And this has been one of the most productive years of my life. I look back and I am amazed at what God has accomplished in this year. And some of it's miracle sized, and some of it's just the everyday next step type sizes. But the key is to trusting God that he's good, that he's a rewarder of those who diligently seek him, and that he will tell you what to do next. He might not tell you the whole big scheme of the whole rest of your life, but he will tell you where to put your foot next.
Exactly. And I love that scenario of the flashlight when you were just talking about that, because I think like so many of us, we all have a little flashlight. We have a little flashlight. We're able to see this much in front of us. And God is like that person that lights it up. But working with a coach is like a spotlight on where you want to go. Yeah. It's like taking one of those 1,000 lumen spotlights and putting it on target of, okay, that's where I'm going. And it allows you to look so much farther beyond that little scope of light that you have in front of you.
I just love it. Britney, thank you so much for joining us here today. This has been great.
Yeah, I had such a great time. I'm so thankful that we finally got connected.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And you guys want to check out Britney's website is at BritneyThompson.com, or of course she's available over at womenspeakers.com if you're looking for a speaker for an upcoming online or live event. And look forward to what God's got planned for us all in 2021. Once again, thank you, Britney, for being here. And thank you all for being here. Enjoyed spending this time with you, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.